I was still wearing Julian's funeral suit jacket when my father-in-law, Arthur, handed me a typed notice. "You have 30 days to vacate the property," he said coldly. His eyes didn't flicker with sympathy. Behind him, Beatrice, my mother-in-law, wandered through the living room, inspecting furniture like it belonged to her. "This can stay," she murmured, touching the edge of the sofa. "My name is Martha. 2 days ago, I lost my husband, Julian. 6 years of marriage, 6 years building a life together, and now I was being treated like a tenant in the house we had called ours." Arthur and Beatrice didn't see a grieving widow, they saw a squatter occupying their asset. I tried to reason with them. "Arthur, this was our home. Julian and I—" My voice faltered. "We built a life here." He didn't flinch. "Martha, technically the house is in my holding company's name. We allowed you to live here. Now, with Julian gone, there's no reason for a girl from your background to occupy such a large estate." I felt the blood drain from my face. Beatrice added calmly, "We'll need your keys by tomorrow. The locksmith is coming." I stood frozen, clutching Julian's coat, watching the people I had called family treat me like I was nothing. Word spread quickly. Friends and neighbors whispered that I was greedy, trying to cling to an inheritance I didn't deserve. I went to the grocery store, and a church acquaintance looked at me with pity. "Beatrice said you were refusing to leave. It's sad how grief can make people unreasonable," she murmured. My hands trembled as I walked home. The humiliation stung worse than Julian's absence. I felt utterly alone. I tried calling Arthur, begging for more time. He laughed and reminded me of my background, of the years we lived under his roof for free. The house felt smaller, colder, like a trap. My world had shrunk to a single room, the memories of Julian suffocating me. I sought legal advice, hoping for a sliver of hope. Marcus, a local attorney, sighed over the deed. "I'm sorry, Martha. The deed is in Arthur's company. Without a lease or deed transfer, there's nothing to fight for, and your funds won't cover a long legal battle." I returned home and sank to the floor in Julian's office. I began packing boxes, tears blurring my vision. A blue folder fell from the bottom drawer. I hesitated, heart pounding. Inside were Julian's carefully recorded business agreements, a private loan from him to Arthur's failing construction company. My stomach twisted as I read the numbers. Julian had risked everything to help his father. The documents revealed $350,000 of our savings had been loaned to Arthur's company, secured by the very house he now tried to claim. Julian had been meticulous. If the loan wasn't repaid with interest, the deed would revert to him, or his legal beneficiary, me. Arthur had never paid. I felt a flicker of hope, but also fear. Confronting them could backfire. I spent nights reviewing every page, calculating quietly. Each contract, signature, and email chain told the story Julian had trusted me to finish. For the first time since his funeral, I felt some of his strength flow into me. I was still scared, still grieving, but now armed with proof.
I didn't contact them. I waited. The realtor had scheduled the final walkthrough for the coming Friday. Arthur expected an empty house, furniture cleared. I prepared instead, dressed sharply in a navy suit, holding Julian's blue folder. I rehearsed my words. I wasn't angry. I was calm. I visualized the moment I would hand him the proof, letting the law and logic speak. Patience became my ally. I thought of Julian's smile, his warnings about his father's arrogance. Every detail mattered. I was no longer just grieving, I was vigilant. The house wasn't just walls and furniture anymore. It was a symbol of every lie they had told, every moment they underestimated me. Friday arrived. Arthur and Beatrice led a potential buyer, Mr. Henderson, through the house. I sat at the dining table, tea steaming in front of me, blue folder stacked neatly. Arthur froze. "Martha, you shouldn't be here," he hissed. I smiled faintly. "I'm exactly where I need to be." Beatrice scowled, but said nothing. Mr. Henderson looked confused. I opened the folder, handing him copies of the secured loan agreements. This property is currently collateral for a defaulted loan, I explained simply. As Julian's legal heir, I have filed a lis pendens today. The room went silent. Arthur's jaw tightened. I could see panic flicker in his eyes. Arthur sputtered, attempting to regain control. "This is a private family matter. You have no right." I remained steady. "I have every right," I said calmly. "The loan, with interest, totals more than the house's value. You can either repay it, or I will enforce my claim on the deed." Mr. Henderson's brow furrowed as he scanned the documents. He turned to Arthur. "I thought this was a clean sale." Arthur faltered. The facade cracked. Beatrice whispered furiously, trying to redirect the attention. But it was too late. Every lie, every humiliation they had spread about me backfired in that room. The quiet, private victory I had planned was unfolding exactly as Julian intended. Arthur's face went from pale to flushed to deep purple. He realized the depth of his miscalculation. The company was insolvent. The debt could not be repaid. Publicly, he was humiliated in front of the buyer and the realtor. All of his arrogance, entitlement, and gaslighting unraveled in a single, quiet confrontation. Beatrice whispered, pleading, but her words fell flat. I remained composed, simply watching the collapse of their control. I didn't need to shout. Their own arrogance did the work. The house, the very thing they had weaponized against me, was now my shield. I stood and folded the blue folder, calm as the room buzzed with tension. "Arthur, you told everyone I was greedy, that I was trying to steal. The truth is, you've been living off my husband's hard-earned money while trying to throw his widow onto the street." I handed him a pen and a copy of the repayment demand. Arthur realized his only option was to sign over the deed or face legal destruction of his holding company. He faltered, knowing his empire and reputation would crumble otherwise. In that moment, justice wasn't loud, it wasn't messy, it was precise, measured, and inevitable. I finally felt control return. The keys, real keys, were handed to me the following week. I unlocked the front door and stepped in alone. For the first time in days, the house felt like home. Beatrice tried to call, syrupy and sweet, suggesting we move past it for Julian's memory. I didn't respond beyond one line. "The sofa looks great. You'll never see it again." There was no satisfaction in gloating. The victory was quiet, earned, and just. I didn't need money, just the security Julian had fought for, and my dignity intact. My grief had been acknowledged, and my life could continue. I sat in the living room alone, Julian's favorite mug in my hands. The sun streamed through the windows, and for the first time since his funeral, I could breathe. I had faced betrayal, humiliation, and fear, and I had survived. Arthur and Beatrice had lost their control, their power stripped by their own arrogance and lies. I didn't feel triumphant in a loud sense. I felt steady, whole, and capable. I had honored Julian and claimed the life we built together. If you've ever had to fight for what was rightfully yours, you're not alone. Drop a comment and let me know where you're from. And if stories like this mean something to you, hit subscribe so we can meet here again.